Tonight on Dr. Phil Primetime. A mother who says she was blindsided when she learned her child was living as a different gender at school.
A school counselor, she said that her policies did not allow them to let the parents know what was going on.
Children had a privacy right.
You can't give aspirin without having express permission from the parents.
Why would we be turning this process over to someone that's not trained for it and doesn't have a good history with the child? Attention, mom and dad. Grandmother, grandfather, you think you know what's going on at your children or grandchildren's school until you don't. Imagine learning, not from your child, not from a teacher, not from the school, but from a piece of art on a classroom wall, a bulletin board, or even a stranger, that your child has changed pronouns and is socially transitioning at school. But you were never told. Sound shocking? Well, right now, as of this year, more than 21,000 schools across 33 states have policies that allow, and in one state requires educators to keep this kind of information from parents and guardians. That's 12.36 million students operating under those policies. And if you're wondering, is that even legal? Well, courts across America are divided, leaving parents and teachers caught in the crossfire. Should schools have the right to keep parents in the dark? Tonight, a mother who says she was blindsided when she learned her child was living as a different gender at school, and the teachers and staff never gave her a clue, never said a word, not a peep. They did not tell her. Aurora, welcome. I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, tell me, how did you first learn that your daughter was living as a boy at school?
Well, my daughter went ahead and told my mother, which my mother immediately told me. So that's how I learned. And when that happened, I reached out to the school and asked them what was going on there.
And what was the explanation you got? Were they open with you then, or were they still evasive? How did they respond?
Well, I got a phone call from the school counselor immediately, and she said that their policy is that they cannot tell me unless the student, which was my daughter, says it's okay for them to tell me. So that their policies did not allow them to let the parents know what was going on.
Okay. At that point, did they talk with you about it openly, or did they still stonewall you? What happened when you did talk to the counselor?
I just told her that wasn't sufficient for me, that why would they ever do something like that? They don't know my daughter. She has never struggled throughout her life with her gender or sexuality. She had been going through a really hard time. Our family that earlier that year had quite a bit of trauma. My dad passed away unexpectedly. And then 6 months later, I got diagnosed with breast cancer. And then she was also in the 5th grade only when this happened and was going through puberty at a very young age. So I think it was accumulation of a lot of different things going on in her mind at a very young age. And it was just a really hard time for her and our family. And she got this idea that she might be a boy because of, maybe some of this confusion over her sexuality, and wasn't really ready at that time to let me know what was going on, and confided in a school counselor. And so it was very alarming to me that she would take the initiative to transition her without even consulting the family and letting us know what was going on at school with her.
But when you did talk to the counselor and you said, look, I know about this now. I've learned about this. I'm not in the dark about it. I've been told about it, so I do know. Did the counselor confirm what you had learned, or did she still say, I can't talk to you about it?
She did confirm that she is going by boy pronouns at school. I went ahead and let her know that I didn't feel that that was acceptable, and I was going to reach out to the principal and also her school teacher to figure out why they would ever take that initiative to do something like that with a child that was so young without, consulting the family or even just giving it a little bit more time. Everything happened really fast. The teacher would not speak to me without the principal present. So I did get a phone call with the teacher and the principal, and I was told very rudely that this is their policy and there's nothing I can do about it.
Okay. And now, there was something about an arts and crafts course or program that you signed your daughter up for. And tell me about that. That actually constituted more than you thought it did.
It did. It was, like I said, my daughter and her family had been going through a really hard time, and she is absolutely beautiful, and she loved to do art. She paints quite often. And so she reached out and said that there was a girls group that was going to be at school during lunch. And it was just a group of girls to, make friends and whatnot, and wanted me to sign, some sort of waiver so she could meet with this group of girls during lunchtime and do arts and crafts, which, knowing the trauma that our family had recently gone through, I thought that that would be absolutely wonderful. So I went ahead and did that. And during that time, it was led by the school counselor. And my daughter had, really kind of felt a connection with her, which I think is great because our family had been going through a lot, which I thought was great. But that arts and crafts meeting during lunchtime ended up in one-on-one meetings with my daughter that I did not know about, and nobody reached out.
So you didn't know you were giving permission for her to go one-on-one with a school counselor?
No, not at all.
Okay. And if you had known that, would you have done that, or would you have talked about it with your daughter?
I would have looked into it and investigated a little bit further, like who this person was that was leading the meetings. And I never thought in a million years that the arts and crafts meeting during lunch would evolve into one-on-one meetings with my daughter without my knowledge, just because she was just so young. And I think that just opens a door for a lot of other problems if you don't know who that person is.
Yeah, you'd want to know something about the counselor, their orientation, their training, their competencies, that sort of thing.
Correct.
Okay, and what about the teacher? Did this start with the teacher, or did it start with the counselor?
It started with the counselor. And then, to my knowledge, he reached out to the teacher, told the teacher, this is how we're going to handle it. This is really what the policy was or is currently now. And so, at the time I was, extremely frustrated with the counselor, but looking back, and now it's been a couple years since this happened. This happened in 2022, 2021-22 school year. This is a lot bigger than what happened with my daughter and the counselor. These schools are being told this is how to handle situations like this. And they're probably even were told at that time that it was law, because that's what was told to me by several administrators, that this is the law and this is how we're supposed to, treat these situations.
Now, Aurora says her daughter lived as a boy for 8 weeks before she found out. And we're going to hear more about that right after the break.
I'm going to love her no matter what. And I want to be there for her. And they automatically excluded me from something that was really extremely important to, her and her development. And it actually made things worse.
When did you decide to file a claim?
as an educator, it's my responsibility to be observant of my students. When a student changes their pronouns and changes their names, there is a possibility of something going on. We need to take note of that and not keep secrets, because it feels like we're keeping secrets from parents.
Aurora thought she signed a permission slip to allow her daughter to make friends and do arts and crafts. Instead, she alleges a school counselor encouraged and helped her daughter to live a double life. Obviously, not something she was comfortable with, which is why we're talking tonight. This has been how long since this took place, Aurora? You say about 2 years?
Yeah, we filed the lawsuit in January of 2023, but she was transitioned in 2022 when she was just 11 years old in 5th grade.
And how is she living now? What is her gender identity now?
She refers to as a female. And it was a really hard time for her. And she was very confused. And looking back at it's just, it's devastating that these policies are in place that would allow any sort of individual at our schools to just hide something as important as sexualities from families, because we're the biggest support system for them. And it was a really hard time for her. It didn't make things better, didn't make her feel better once she did it. It actually made things worse. She was isolated not only from her family, but even more so from, friends at school, because they didn't understand what was going on. So she was eating lunch by herself in, the library. And it was just hard, very hard.
Have you been apprised of the arguments that those who support keeping this from parents make? Did they tell you why they support keeping this from parents? And what did they say?
So the argument is that kids have privacy rights, that they have a right to privacy, and they shouldn't have to tell, not even their family, until they're ready to tell their family about any sort of sexuality orientation.
Because I've talked to both sides of this argument, and those on the side for protecting the student privacy, as you say, is that they say that student safety comes first, and that forced outing can lead to real harm, that 20 to 45% of homeless youth in the United States identify as LGBTQ+, and that the majority of those cite family rejection as the cause. And so the Trevor Project in 2023 looked at 28,000 plus LGBTQ plus youth surveyed and said 66% reported anxiety, approximately half reported depression, and less than half described their home as affirming, and that parental rejection was linked to worse identity development and health outcomes. So I think they use those statistics. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying they use those statistics to say they can't trust parents to be a safe space for a child that is transitioning or coming out, and that they feel that school is the safe space. What do you say to that?
Well, honestly, it is a really hard situation. I mean, even after everything happened with my daughter, she was very delicate. And, I do have, a place in my heart for every single child that is going through any sort of issues concerning their sexuality. I just don't believe that automatically excluding parents without any sort of investigation is the right direction to go. Just because it is so hard. And it doesn't mean necessarily like, you have to call the parent, immediately when a child says, hey, I feel like, I'm the opposite sex. I believe that as soon as they want to affirm it, there should be some investigations and parents should be notified, because my situation specifically, it was very damaging to my daughter. Very, very damaging. They didn't understand what she was really going through. There was no investigations of why she was feeling that. They didn't even know her long enough to know, like, if she had felt like this for years or if it's something that just has happened within the last few months. And so, unfortunately, I know that there may be some families that wouldn't be accepting, but it didn't really matter to me whether she was a trans child or a girl or a boy or whatever. I'm going to love her no matter what. And I want to be there for her. And they automatically excluded me from something that was really extremely important to, her and her development. And it actually made things worse.
Well, it seems like it promoted a sense of dishonesty and betrayal between her and you. I mean, she was hiding something from you, obviously, which is not a solid family dynamic. When did you decide to file a claim?
Well, I actually, didn't really want to go down this road at all. I just wanted to make sure that this didn't happen to another family, that I just felt like the steps that were taken to transition her and the way that it was done was so damaging and innately wrong, that I just wanted to have them change their course of action and how they handled really serious issues like this. And every step of the way, working my way up through the district, I just felt like I was bullied. I felt like the door was slammed in my face, and it was really hard. I mean, I got to a point where we had gotten through the summer with my daughter, and I had told her, I'm going to love you no matter what. Let's just give this time, in 6 months, if you still feel like this, let's move forward. No matter what you want to do, I'm going to be here for you. And after the summer, she was like, she had started identifying as a girl again. And she was looking back, and she just felt like it was innately wrong as well. And she said, Mom, I don't want this to happen to another child. So I pursued working my way up through the district, and I met with our superintendent, and it was another, door slammed in my face. And I just felt like they wanted me to go away. And they just told me that this is the policy and there is nothing I can do about it. And that's just the way it is. And so I just felt like I needed to let families know what was going on at school, because I grew up in this small town in California, Northern California, which is Chico. And I grew up here. I went to school here, and you could have never told me that this was happening in our schools. You could have never told me. I'm just a regular mom. I take my kids to soccer, different sports, swimming, I'm very involved, and I would have never thought in a million years that this was going on.
Yeah, I get it. All right, coming up, Aurora's attorney is here, and he'll explain why this case is not just important for their family, but for every family in America. Their argument seems backwards to me. Aren't they the ones that are outing the child by having them assume the other gender identity rather than the opposite?
Parents living in America do have rights as citizens not to be martyrs or sheep led to the slaughter. That means doing exactly as parents have done in Chino Hills in suing the California government. This law is not only unconstitutional, but it is deeply immoral.
We're back with Aurora, whose daughter, who we're calling AS, was helped to transition from a girl to a boy in the 5th grade without anyone from the school contacting her. Now, joining us is Josh Dixon, Aurora's attorney, and the director of litigation from the Center for American Liberty. Josh, appreciate your being here. You say this case is a fundamental game changer for how parents communicate with schools. Tell me what you mean.
Yeah, so parents have the right to direct and control their children's upbringing and education. And part of what that right includes is the right to consent and to be involved when significant decisions are made in the lives of their children. And that right was violated here. The decision whether to undergo a social transition is a significant decision in the life of the child, and it's a decision that parents have to be involved in. The decision here was a decision that was made by the school to honor the child's assertion of the transgender identity, and that is a parental decision. And so, because the school made the choice on its own to honor the child's assertion of the transgender identity, then the school stepped into the parental role and made that decision for the child when the parent should be the one making the decision. I think it's important for us to point out that we're not arguing that anytime a child comes to a school official and says, I think I may be trans, I think I may be gay, I think I may be whatever, we're not contending that that knowledge alone triggers the parental right. Schools don't have an obligation in that fact situation to tell the parents. We think that would be good policy, but we're not contending that violates the Constitution. What violates the Constitution is when the school makes the decision to honor the child's identity, which is what's happening here. It's not just happening in California. As you mentioned at the outset, it's happening in schools all across the country. So this case is extremely important, not only for Aurora, it's important for every case, or every parent, I should say, in California. Almost every school in California has adopted this policy or a similar policy to the one that's at issue here. And then, like I said, the details may vary from state to state, but these types of policies are in place nationwide.
Right. And, teachers are saying they don't want to be forced in outing a child. And I think that's just kind of a slang term, but I think there's a difference between outing a child publicly and consulting with the parent about a child. It seems to me that it's the reverse. They are outing the child at school and not outing the child with their parents. It seems like it's the reverse to me. They're going public with this at school, but yet hiding it from the parent. I don't get the argument. It seems like the reverse of what they're arguing, whether you support or don't support the LGBTQ community. Their argument seems backwards to me. I don't understand the argument. Aren't they the ones that are outing the child by having them assume the other gender identity rather than the opposite?
I think your instinct and your tuition there is exactly right. I mean, what the schools are arguing is that children who could be as young as 5 years old, by the way, have a privacy right against their parents to keep their social transition secret from their parents. Yet the social transition, by definition, is social. It is occurring throughout the school environment. And so everyone at school knows that the child is undergoing this transition. So what we're saying is that teachers, janitors, other classmates, everyone in the school environment knows. Yet the only people who can't are the very people who are closest to the children, which it turns the Constitution on its head. The essence of a privacy right is that it is, in some definition, in some measure, private. Well, this is not private. This is social. And so your instinct is exactly right, and it completely undermines the state's counter arguments.
Look, we have some parents in Texas, I guess we call them mouth breathers. You got some parents that are going to be really backwards, and they're going to have an ab reaction to this with their child, and they could abuse them, they could ostracize them, kick them to the curb, get all kinds of bad reaction to them. And isn't that why we have mandated reporters in the schools? Isn't that why every bus driver, cafeteria worker, teacher, counselor is mandated by law to report this to Child Protective Services or Department of Child and Family Services to make sure that these rigid parents don't have a reaction to a child expressing a thought, feeling, or reacting to it in a way that's abusive rather than nurturing of the child? Isn't there a check and balance system built in to protect them from that overrides the likelihood that the parent will be there for the child?
That's exactly right. I mean, just as I mentioned, we said the parental right isn't triggered until the school undertakes the affirmative act of socially transitioning the child. We're not contending that the parental right is absolute. The case law from the Supreme Court and otherwise is very clear on this, that the state does have a role in protecting children, even sometimes from their parents. What the state cannot do, however, is presume that all parents will want to harm their children. And that's precisely what these parental secrecy policies do. The school, you're right, the bus drivers, whomever, are the eyes and ears when the child is in a delicate situation like this. And there can be facts that can be shown to undermine what the parent is doing if the parent is literally abusing the child. Of course, that parent should have his parent or her parental rights rescinded or transcended by the interests of the state. But that's not what these policies do. What these policies do is presume that every parent will harm their child. And the Supreme Court has said that you cannot make that presumption. In fact, the presumption must be the opposite. The state must presume that parents will be fit, will love their children, and act in their best interests. And that presumption or those presumptions can only be overcome with specific fact findings that these particular parents are not acting in their children's best interest.
Yeah, it just makes sense. All right, coming up, should teachers tell parents when a student goes into a process of transitioning, changing their gender? My next guest says never.
No one else should attempt to define for any of our students who they are and who they are becoming. This is a personal matter. This is a matter of safety. This is a matter of privacy. And there should be no forced outing in our state or anywhere in our country. And the Safety Act will make sure that there no longer are forced outings in the state of California.
Well, should parents be notified if their children want to change their gender at schools? Joining now is Eli Ehrlich, founder of Trans Student Educational Resources. Eli, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Phil.
You say that based on your own experiences, that it's harmful for children to be outed to parents by teachers or school staff, because this was something that came very prominent in your life at 8 years old, as I recall. You and I have talked many times before, so I know a lot about your situation. It was 8 years old when this became prominent in your life, correct?
Exactly. I mean, this is deeply personal to me. And I was also in a small town in rural Northern California, and I was outed in third grade. And like so many trans students, my parents did not take it well. They shamed me, they punished me, and I felt humiliated. I mean, they were some of my first bullies. Now, thankfully, they've came around. I was able to transition. And at the same time, I didn't have the opportunity to tell them on my own terms. And that's all that we're asking for as trans people. We want to be able to come out on our own terms to people who we want to know. There's a reason if a trans child doesn't want to tell a parent. And it can be fear, it can be misunderstanding, but we have this right to privacy, and no adult has the right to abuse their child.
Well, absolutely. No parent has the right to abuse their child, and humiliating them and shaming them, to me, is 100% abusive. You get no argument from me whatsoever about that. But tell me this, when you started making this transition in school, didn't you have pushback then? Didn't students judge you and bully you and ostracize you when that happened at school?
Yes, absolutely. And I greatly empathize with these parents because they're worried their children might be bullied. And this very often happens. But the bullying, I mean, none of it added up to forcing me to present myself masculinely and pretend that I was a boy. That wasn't who I was. And many parents end up becoming their children's biggest bullies by not allowing them to be who they are.
And there has to be a remedy for that. But I have to tell you, at 8 years old, and I'm sorry you had that experience with your parents, as you know. I've said that to you before. I hate that for you. And it wasn't just at 8. This went on with you for years, that you had to fight this and put up with it. But at 8 years old, I just do not believe that children should be the captain in their own lives. And if there are problems with parents, then those parents need to be dealt with. They need to be taken to the woodshed. But to make 8-year-old children, 9-year-old children, 10-year-old children captain of their own lives just simply doesn't make sense to me, whether it's about this or anything else. That's why we don't give them driver's license at that age. That part of their brain's not through growing yet. They can't see around corners. They don't have foresight. And that's my issue. The problem is with the parents. It's not with you, the child at 8 years old. It's with how the parents react. We have to take a break, and we're just scratching the surface with you. We'll be right back. But we're going to meet someone who says gender is not changeable, so this whole issue shouldn't even be up for discussion. We'll add them right after the break.
My kids attend the New York City public school system, which is the largest in the nation. And you can't give any one of the million kids in our schools an aspirin without having express permission from the parents.
Why would we be turning this process over to someone that's not trained for it and doesn't have a good history with the child? Joining in this conversation now is Maud Marin, educational advocate. Maud, thank you for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Now, you say it is an upside down world in schools today, particularly regarding this issue of keeping things from parents. You think they should be notified, correct?
Of course. My kids attend the New York City public school system, which is the largest in the nation. And you can't give any one of the million kids in our schools an aspirin without having express permission from the parents. So to engage in what is a very extensive psychosocial intervention with a child, to transition a child or to collaborate with a youngster and telling them that they're not the sex that they actually are, that's a massive intervention that should absolutely, one, it should just not happen, but it should never even be contemplated or discussed without parental involvement.
Well, this is one of my issues. And Eli, first off, is an example of what happens when parents don't respond well. No question about that. And I've known Eli for a number of years, and she is one of the nicest, sweetest, reasonable people. We don't agree on this, but otherwise is one of the nicest people you'd ever want to meet. But we disagree about this. And my point is, what you're saying, this is a complex issue, and teachers, who I have the highest respect for, are not trained in this at all. They haven't got any training, not a clue on how to assess this, diagnose if there are issues going on that might be distorting perceptions, whatever. Don't know how to properly facilitate this sort of thing. And parents who know the child best, seems to me they should be on the team if this is going to take place. They know the child the best, and having them in a dialogue gives the counselor an opportunity to say, uh-oh, we got a parent here that is subject to knee-jerk reactions, being abusive or whatever. It seems like that's the first place they should look to see if there potentially abusive or a resource, as you say, they can't even give an aspirin. Why would we be turning this process over to someone that's not trained for it and doesn't have a good history with the child? Eli, what do you say about that?
Well, parents aren't also trained, but actually, let's talk about expertise. Every major medical association and every major psychological association agrees that outing children, outing anyone can have negative impacts on the mental health of the person who's outed. And you cited this earlier with the Trevor Project.
Isn't the school outing the person? Isn't the school outing the person?
The school isn't outing the person because outing requires a lack of consent, and the child in these cases would be consenting.
But the child is 8. The child doesn't know they're going to get bullied and nobody sit with them at lunch and make fun of them. Maude, what do you say about that?
So there's something going on here that happens a lot in these conversations. One, we're conflating the idea of outing someone who's gay with the concept of being trans. There is absolutely no evidence that supports the systematic reviews in various countries and in scientific literature at this point does not support pediatric gender transition. There's simply nothing that backs it up. The cure for gender
Except for
dysphoria
every single major medical association. Again, this is just
institutions that
blatantly
will promote
false.
trans propaganda. But the fact of the matter is the cure for gender dysphoria in prepubescent children is puberty. Kids that go through
It's
puberty
hormones
are
and hormone
overwhelmingly likely
blockers.
to keep their gender dysphoria behind. No, puberty blockers and hormones destroy healthy bodies on the false assertion that you can change your sex, which you cannot.
Oh, that's nice, Maud. So every person who takes hormones, has any sort of surgery, which includes over half of all women, is modifying their body, is doing something unhealthy. This is a completely normal process. And we should be out there supporting trans youth, supporting youth in expressing themselves and maybe experimenting.
Cutting body parts off children is not normal and it should not be supported. And to go to Dr. Phil's points about what's happening in schools, parents are having to go into schools to stop the psychosocial intervention that's happening without their knowledge and support. The canard that this is somehow that every parent in America is a transphobe that's going to hurt their kids is ridiculous. The previous guests on this show who have said accurately, there's mandatory reporting going on. If there's a parent who's being abusive, that parent should absolutely be reported, regardless of why, whether it's because the kid says they're trans or they got a bad grade or any other reason. A child that's being hurt in the home, that needs to be reported. But with regard to this raft of legislation like we've seen in California that's trying to deliberately cut parents out of the lives of children, that's bad for kids. It causes more harm to children, even gender dysphoric children who are confused. And of course, kids are getting more confused because we have teachers reading them crazy books about the fact that they might actually be born in the wrong body. And that is impossible. Nobody is born in the wrong body.
Yes, I completely agree. Nobody is born in the wrong body. And that's why we can change our bodies and express ourselves in all of these great ways. And again, this is the consensus among all major medical associations, psychological associations. I would rather listen to the experts than anyone else.
Well, I agree with you that every major medical organization in the United States has taken the position to support, quote, gender affirming care. And I think history will not be kind to those organizations. I think that they have caved to pressure about that. I don't think they're on the right side of history with regard to that. And I think that we're seeing this become a political football and not something that is medically sound. And when we look at the research that has gone on, the Cass report, in particular, which is a massive report that has come out of Europe recently, specifically the UK, indicates that this is not a wise path to go down. And I think we have to recognize that we're talking about two different things now. One, whether that is the wise route to go, and two, whether it's smart to lock parents out of that process. And Aurora, you don't think it's the right thing to lock parents out of that process. Justin, you don't think it's the right thing. Maud doesn't think it's the right thing. I don't think it's the right thing. Eli, you had a very personal experience with you, so you obviously have a vested interest in it. We'll talk more about this, but we have to take a break first. We'll be right back, and I'll start with you when we do, Eli.
Thanks, Phil.
We'll be right back. Well, we're pretty much out of time, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4 on one side and Eli on the other. And I love the fact that Eli is one of the few that is willing to actually debate this. Eli, let me give you the final word here.
Well, I know these are controversies, but ultimately parents should be involved in their students' lives, but that needs to be the student's choice. Children aren't property, and they should be able to express themselves in ways that encourage healthy development.
Well, I believe very strongly that children certainly should have a voice, but you don't take a pilot for a small Cessna and put them in the cockpit of a 747. They're just not ready for it. And that's true of children making decisions that they cannot reverse. We're out of time for today. I would love to have this conversation further, and I invite all 4 of you to come back and discuss this further because it's an important conversation. Eli thinks it's kind of moral hysteria. And again, I think we should talk about it more. I want to thank Aurora and her attorney, Josh Dixon, and also Eli Ehrlich and Maud Marin for being here and talking about this. It's important. And I love that we could have a civil conversation about this. We'll see you tomorrow night. Thank all 4 of you for being here.